Film fans YouTube, hello and welcome back to the channel. I am Josh, the Movie Apprentice, and today I'm doing a very late review of Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, directed by Adam Wingard. Starring Rebecca Hall, Kaylee, Hottle, Brian Tyree, Henry, and Dan Stevens, Kong and Godzilla, after their epic fight in the previous movie, are now living their best lives, with Kong ruling Hollow Earth and Godzilla ruling the surface world. But after a noisy neighbor begins to stir up some trouble within Hollow Earth, Kong realizes he might need a little bit of help to deal with this particular threat. Before I get into my review, if you like seeing our channel, click the like button and subscribe for more video reviews that's coming all the time. Without further ado, let's get into this review. So, this has been out for a bit of a week, so I'll be a bit loose-lipped with my spoilers. I'll give a spoiler warning in advance in case anyone has not seen it. If you have seen it, then no need to worry. To get some boring comparisons out of the way first, because it seems that a lot of people seem to be under the impression that because of -1, this film was going to randomly be more serious, when this whole franchise has not been like that ever since the first Godzilla that tried it, and then we saw what in more kaiju smashing into each other. So that's what they gave us from that point onwards. The way I see these kaiju movies is like wrestling, which is very apt as we're going into Wrestlemania weekend. You can enjoy the serious stories, the drama, the build up. You can fully invest in the characters you're seeing on screen, but you can also really enjoy some good comedy spots and enjoy some high octane spot fest that have no storyline or build up within it, but there's still a lot of fun to watch. That is what this franchise is. We have the Japanese side of things that are doing the in-depth storytelling, and the Monsterverse American side with all the money. You want them to throw all the money at it and just give us kaijus smashing into each other. And that is exactly what this film presents. Now, the fights are not nearly as good as some of the previous films. I prefer the fights in Godzilla vs. Kong and Godzilla King of the Monsters. There is still a lot of fun to be had in this movie. And one big positive for this movie is that the humans are very much stripped back in this particular one. There was a great big cast of human characters throughout the franchise. Now they condense it down to just 4 individuals, only 3 of which are returning from the previous films. Brian Tyree Henry as the conspiracy theorist nut job is entertaining to watch. He can be a bit overbearing at times, but he bounces off very well with a character that I'm pretty sure was introduced into this movie that is basically Steve Irwin for giants, right down to the Australian accent. And of course, you got Kaylee Hottle returning as the deaf tribe girl that can only communicate through sign language, that had a very intimate connection with Kong. She's the only one that can really understand him and can communicate with him properly. We don't get as many moments with her and Kong interacting, but they still acknowledge their previous history and dynamic, which leads to some great sequences. The humans in this very much serve as the commentators for the MonsterMania that we are witnessing. They are telling us exactly why we need to be hyped for these fights that are going to take place throughout the course of the film. Most of the actual emotional drama comes from just exclusive Kong sequences. There are several scenes that it just focuses on Kong, little baby Kong, as people have come to call him, and the other kaiju monsters as well. There is a lot of just gestures and facial expressions and grunts that are used to communicate the story. And I can't wait for this film to get a digital release so that the abridged people out there can go nuts and insert dialogue into these scenes. Because no matter who you are, guarantee anyone that's watched this was writing these scenes in their head, and I guarantee no scene is truly lining up. There will be a line or a word replaced here and there, but that gives us some of the greatest moments in the movie. I just love the aspect that Kong's story in this is basically he has a toothache, he goes to the dentist, he hears a noisy neighbor, he goes to check out the sound, finds the source of the noise, and finds a factory and wants to complain to the manager. Doesn't get his way, so he goes to the King of the Monsters for help. That is Kong's arc throughout this film. I mainly have a spoiler warning purely because there is an all-time return in this, equivalent to maybe not Edge, but it very much feels like a Hardy Boys return at one of the previous Manias. It's built up and it's glorious. Mothra is back, who died way back in King of the Monsters, but in a little credit sequence, we see a cocoon. And while it's established that that's supposed to be at a research site, because I'm pretty sure Hollow Earth was not established at that moment. While it's a retcon, it was still a great moment. Sure, the humans did almost ruin the moment for me for a bit because they hint that they're probably going to bring Mothra back thanks to a prophecy, and I got excited. And they kept bringing it. Was like, we're bringing Mothra back, we're bringing Mothra back, we're bringing Mothra back. Honestly, it didn't ruin the moment though, because Mothra is still the most beautiful kaiju you ever see on screen. She really lights up the room, and Godzilla straight up has the same expression that Hiccup's dad has in How to Train Your Dragon 2 when he sees Mothra again. You could almost hear the "You're as beautiful as the day I lost you" line coming out of Godzilla's but it is a great sequence, and fair play to the movie for not spoiling it in the trailer at all. I really appreciated them for that. Going back into spoiler-free territory, when it comes to the fights, they are few and far between. There are plenty of fights, but they're over very quickly. It's only the main event that really is given time to show. And no credit is given to the special effects team in this movie or any of these Monsterverse movies, because for all the special effects in other big budget movies that get panned have obvious glaring green screen and just get shredded to pieces by the online community, the Monsterverse has remained consistent and solid when it comes to CGI. And even with a lesser budget, which I'm pretty sure this film had, there was still decent looking CG in this. There was not a moment where I didn't question the monsters or the area that they were in. It really worked well. And a lot of people were raging in the trailer of the Godzilla and Kong running sequence. They're not going to move that fast. They're too big. They can't move that fast. Well, Hollow Earth, there's literally a whole subplot that establishes that the technology of a tribe they find here is based on manipulating gravity. And they're not on the surface when they're doing this running. They are very much not even the Hollow Earth. They are on like sub Hollow Earth. They are a lot further down. So when the gravity is being manipulated, it makes sense why their fighting is a bit more fluid. There is still a bit more rigidness to the scale of them, but it made sense somehow. And they didn't have to try and make it make sense. This is a perfect popcorn flick to watch with your friends. Get the popcorns in, get the beers in, cheer the fight. Obviously, when you're at home, not in the cinema, because that is very rude and distracting. It's just what you'd expect from a Monsterverse movie. Honestly, my only flaws with it is the fact that it does feel very rushed, does the final fight. There is all this build up, and it just feels very quick, and it almost becomes too many cooks in the kitchen. It very much almost becomes the Mania main event for this weekend. It's not a one-on-one, it ends up being like a tag team match, and it works really well. It's a fun fight to watch, but doesn't quite hit the levels of any of Godzilla or Kong's fights in the previous one, or Godzilla versus King Ghidorah in King of the Monsters. So there is a lot to be said about this movie and fun to watch. But in terms of the scale and choreography of the fight, it wasn't as good, and that's why it's not an amazing film for me. Before I get into my grade, if you like what you're seeing on the channel, click the like button and subscribe for more video reviews like coming all the time. Without further ado, let's grade this. Godzilla x Kong is exactly what you want. It is kaijus smashing into each other and just causing absolute havoc. Anyone that played them old monster games on the PS2 era, where you would be two kaijus fighting each other, picking up buildings and throwing them at each other, you will be very happy with this movie. If you go into this looking for Godzilla -1, first, what the hell are you doing? Second, no, you're not going to get that. You're never going to get that. End of the day, Godzilla is Japan's creation as a response to the atomic bomb. They know the themes of the character, so leave that to them. Let them focus on the deep side of Godzilla. America, they have the money. They have the F yeah attitude. So just let them get these characters together, sprinkle a bit of lore in there, and have them brawl with each other. I know there's a lot more lore into this universe, especially with the Monarch TV show and all the canon comic books in between. So there is definitely going to be a hardcore fan base around this franchise. It's funny that no one ever really acknowledges that these films are a cinematic universe, and it works and stay consistent since the slow start of its first movie. They found their footing, drove ahead, and gave us some entertaining movies that are always going to put butts in seats. I really appreciate that Legendary committed to sticking with the franchise, didn't let it die, and now we just have these fun Godzilla and Kong popcorn flicks to go to every few years, which is always going to be a cinematic event in itself. I'm going to have to say that for me personally, though, Godzilla X Kong, because of the lackluster fights overall, brings it down to a tea that needs more sugar. So Godzilla X Kong, have you seen it? If you haven't, you thought down in the comments below. What was your opinion on the big return? Do let me know. Coming up on the channel, I'm going away for a few days because it's WrestleMania weekend, so I intend to be thoroughly bloated on Doritos, drinking beers, and just having a good time. So there won't be any reviews until after the weekend, probably not until Tuesday or Wednesday, and that will likely be the first Omen. So subscribe for that when it comes, and until next time, everybody, I am Josh, I have been your Movie Apprentice, and I'll see you all in the next video.